Leadership often fails at the exact moment it becomes most certain it is right. Someone has made a mistake. Something must change. The leader sees the problem clearly and charges in with correction, authority, and perhaps the emotional grace of a dropped toolbox. Carnegie's final section asks a better question. How do you change people without making them resent the change? Welcome back to this book summary series on how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. In this final part, we cover the leadership section, begin with praise, correct indirectly, admit your own mistakes, ask questions instead of giving orders. Let people save face, praise improvement, give a good reputation to live up to, make faults seem easy to correct, and make people glad to do what you suggest. The first leadership principle is to begin with praise and honest appreciation. Carnegie compares criticism to a barber who lathers before shaving. The preparation matters. If you must correct someone, begin by recognizing what is good, useful, or improved. This is not flattery. It is context. A person who feels wholly condemned will resist. A person who feels valued may be able to hear correction. The order matters because correction threatens identity. Praise reminds the person they are more than the mistake. It keeps the conversation from becoming a verdict on their entire worth. The second principle is to call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Carnegie warns that the word but can erase praise. You did a good job, but often means the listener stops believing the first half. He prefers approaches that preserve encouragement while still guiding improvement. Sometimes a small indirect cue works better than a direct rebuke. This principle is not about being vague when clarity is needed. It is about choosing the least humiliating, effective correction. If the person can understand the problem without being publicly struck by it, why strike? The third principle is to talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. This is humility as leadership technique. When you admit your own history of error, the correction becomes less of a thrown speech. You are not the flawless judge descending from Mount Competence. You are a human being who has also learned through mistakes. Carnegie gives examples of leaders who softened criticism by acknowledging their own shortcomings first. This helps because it reduces shame. The message becomes, I have struggled too, and improvement is possible, rather than, I am superior and you are the problem. The fourth principle is to ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Orders can create obedience, but questions can create ownership. Instead of saying, do this now, a leader might ask, what do you think would happen if we tried this? How could we handle this deadline? What approach would make the customer feel heard? Questions invite thought. They allow people to participate in the solution. Carnegie is not denying that direct orders are sometimes necessary. But as a default, questions preserve dignity and develop judgment. They also reduce resentment because the person is not treated as a tool. The fifth principle is to let the other person save face. This may be one of Carnegie's most humane leadership rules. People can survive bad news, correction, even failure, if they're not needlessly humiliated. Saving face means protecting someone's dignity while handling the issue. Carnegie gives examples of managers and public figures who understood this. A dismissal, demotion, refusal, or correction can be handled brutally or respectfully. The facts may be the same. The human damage is not. Saving face matters because humiliation lingers. People remember not only what happened, but how small they were made to feel. A leader who protects dignity builds trust, even in hard moments. The sixth principle is to praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Carnegie returns to encouragement as a force. People grow toward recognition. If you notice only failure, you train discouragement. If you notice progress, even small progress, you strengthen the behavior you want. This is especially important when someone is learning. Early improvement is fragile. A person trying to change may not yet be good, but they may be better. Carnegie wants leaders to catch that movement and reinforce it. He also recommends being hearty in approbation and lavish in praise. Modern ears may hear that as too much, but his point is clear. Do not be stingy with sincere encouragement. Many leaders ration praise, as if it were a non-renewable resource. Then they wonder why morale looks like a houseplant in a windowless room. The seventh principle is to give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. This is one of Carnegie's most powerful ideas. If you want someone to improve, treat them as though the desired quality is already within reach. Give them an identity that calls forth better behavior. Honest, capable, reliable, thoughtful, careful, brave. People often act in line with the reputation they believe others hold of them. If you label someone hopeless, they may stop trying. If you tell them you see real ability, they may work to justify that faith. This principle must be sincere. You cannot invent a reputation from nothing and expect magic, but you can identify a seed of strength and speak to it. You can say, I know you care about quality. I have seen you handle hard things. You're the kind of person who can fix this. That kind of belief can be deeply motivating. The eighth principle is to use encouragement and make the faults seem easy to correct. When a problem feels enormous, people freeze. Carnegie advises leaders to make improvement feel possible. Break it down. Emphasize progress. Show the next step. Reduce the emotional size of the fault without denying it. This works because confidence affects performance. If someone believes they are incapable, they may not even begin. A leader's job is often to make the first step feel reachable. The ninth principle is to make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. This final rule gathers many earlier ideas. People cooperate more readily when they see how the action serves their wants, identity, pride, convenience, or values. Do not merely impose the task. Frame it in a way that gives meaning or benefit. Carnegie gives examples of requests made more appealing by considering the other person's perspective. The principle returns to the fishing lesson from the beginning. Bait the hook with what the fish wants. In leadership, that means connect the work to the person's motives. The final section shows Carnegie's view of leadership as influence with care. A leader must correct, but correction should not become cruelty. A leader must guide, but guidance should not erase dignity. A leader must get results, but results are better when people keep their self-respect. Across the whole book, the pattern is remarkably consistent. Do not criticize. Appreciate. Understand wants. Show interest. Listen. Respect opinions. Admit mistakes. Begin friendly. Let others talk. See from their viewpoint. Preserve dignity. Encourage improvement. Carnegie is not offering a bag of tricks. He is offering a view of human nature. People want importance, respect, agency, sympathy, and hope. If you work with those needs, influence becomes easier. If you trample them, even correct ideas become hard to accept. The book also has an ethical test. These methods can be used selfishly, and Carnegie's language sometimes sounds very practical, almost transactional. But the best reading is not, how do I make people do what I want? It is, how do I pursue my goals while treating people in a way that preserves their dignity? That question keeps the book alive. Some advice in how to win friends and influence people may feel old-fashioned in style, but the emotional mechanics remain current. People still hate being criticized. They still like being appreciated. They still enjoy hearing their name. They still want to talk about what matters to them. They still resist humiliation. Apparently, the human operating system has not received a major update. So the final lesson is not complicated. Before speaking, ask what your words will do to the other person's pride, importance, and willingness to cooperate. Before correcting, ask whether dignity can survive the correction. Before persuading, ask whether you understand what the other person wants. Carnegie's world is full of business people, presidents, salesmen, families, students, and public figures. But beneath all those stories is one repeated invitation. Make people feel human, and they will often become easier to reach. Thank you for listening to this full series on how to win friends and influence people. The book's promise is not that everyone will like you, or that every conversation will go your way. The promise is more practical. If you lead with respect, interest, appreciation, and empathy, you stop making human nature your enemy.